losing control. I'm seeing red. Watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, dude?
Not a lot. Chilling, getting ready for Christmas. Getting ready for a little holiday. Yeah, feeling good.
2020 Christmas. It feels a little weird, but definitely happy holidays to all the listeners out there. We really appreciate you guys, and hope you all have a great Christmas.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a break from sitting at home to probably just do more sitting at home. But hey, man, holiday is a holiday.
Yeah, that is very true. All right, let's jump into the action. Waste no time. The last UFC event of the year happened this past weekend. It's kind of crazy, dude. I believe this was I don't even know the number, but this was the last event on a string of events all the way dating back to July. We had not had a weekend without UFC since July, and now we get, I believe, like 3 or 4 weeks off before we get a triple header of events that were announced, which we can talk about a little bit later. But, dude, what a way to end the year. This event was absolutely awesome. It lost its main event, which was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev versus Leon Edwards, but it did not suffer whatsoever. The last fight of the year was an absolute banger between Geoff Neal and Stephen Thompson. I got to say right off the rip, man, props to both of these guys. I was impressed with Geoff Neal in defeat, but Stephen Thompson at 37 going on 38 years old, I think he proved in this fight that he is still a player in this division. And I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but I think he can make a serious run at another, at a title at least. I think if you look at like karate guys, right? You look at like a guy like Leona Machida, it seems like guys kind of like figured him out, right? But Stephen Thompson has not been figured out. His chin hasn't gone away sans the Anthony Pettis fight, which he was dominating. We both kind of discussed last week. We thought he beat Darren Till, arguably. He had the two close-ass fights with Tyron Woodley. So this guy he's not fallen off yet. And to go toe-to-toe with Geoff Neal like he did on Saturday, I can't say enough good things about Stephen Thompson. I was thoroughly impressed with him.
Yeah, I'm with all of that. I do think he exposed maybe some limitations of Geoff Neal's style, and I think we kind of talked about those, like Neal kind of being a pretty strict headhunter and almost strictly a puncher. But at the same time, Neal was doing a lot of the right things to try to get Stephen Thompson against the cage. But boy, in a small cage, seeing the way Stephen Thompson moved, I'm with all of what you just said. I was just so impressed. Being able to almost like rarely get totally cut off in a small cage against a guy who was pressuring him for about 25 minutes really speaks to Stephen Thompson's mobility, and just like that mobility alone is a problem for such a huge part of the division, because it takes a really I think talented striker with like phenomenal footwork to be able to cut him off completely, or you got to be kind of the Tyron Woodley factor, like have just outrageous athleticism and you can kind of explode into those positions. But yeah, loved everything I saw out of Thompson. Like his counters, I think he did better with his hands than I think I expected, at least. At some point it felt like Geoff Neal was just running into counters, but I think that's a lot of credit to Thompson with catching him with counters on the way in, which is like, we know what he's going to do. And I think you bring up a good point that it seemed like with Machida, people had kind of figured him out. And it was like, throw a lot of leg kicks, don't let him counter you. But it seems like Thompson does a lot of the same things, but guys are just not kind of following that game plan. And I don't know if that's a detriment to his opponents or a compliment to Stephen Thompson. But after seeing how well he was moving around that small cage, I think he deserves a ton of credit.
In this fight, too, he was really willing to bite down on the
exchange
and
exchange. He was putting it on him in the 5th round.
Yeah,
like he had no reason to. Yeah,
Geoff Neal, great chin. He took everything that Stephen Thompson threw at him, but that's a first with Stephen Thompson. He doesn't generally bite down on the mouthpiece and trade with guys. But this fight, that was kind of a new wrinkle, and his game is evolving, man. At 37 years old, with injuries and some of the wars he's been in, man. It's crazy to see it.
I think one thing I was thinking about when I was watching it is most guys are kind of scared off by Geoff Neal's power, so they're afraid to throw at the same time he's punching because they know if he lands, it's lights out. But that was a risk Stephen Thompson was willing to take over and over and over again to punch at the same time Neal is punching and just trust in his ability to evade and land the counter. Which, if you're not scared off by Geoff Neal's power, you can exchange with him. He's going to be there to be hit. But yeah, I thought Stephen Thompson looks great. And then when you were just going through his record just now, like it really kind of shines the light on. I think a lot of us have kind of written him off, but it's like, why? I mean, the Pettis loss, I think that all of us kind of thought, oh, there goes his chin. His chin is done now. But against Luque and Neal, two back-to-back like young stud contenders, just totally routing them. I think that tells us a lot about where he's at, more than the Pettis loss even.
I mean, listen to this man's resume. He's got Patrick Cote, knocked out Robert Whitaker, knocked out Jake Ellenberger, knocked out Johnny Hendrick, beat Rory McDonald, had the super close draw and with Tyron Woodley, and then the majority decision loss. Outclassed George Masvidal. We both thought he kind of beat Darren Till. He was beating Anthony Pettis. And then, like you said, back-to-back savages in Vicente Luque and Geoff Neal. I mean, dude, his resume is legit as hell. And again, like, I really do feel that he can make another run at this belt. My problem is looking at the rankings, I just don't know where he goes from here. And let me roll it out for you, right? He called out Masvidal after this fight. The nicest motherfucker versus the baddest motherfucker, right? And I love that angle. But come on, I think most of us, me personally, I would rather see Masvidal and Covington fight. They have the beef, right? We've already seen the Masvidal Stephen Thompson fight. I'd rather see Masvidal versus Covington. So if you look at the rest of the rankings, and are you with me on that?
Yeah, no, 100%. Masvidal Covington makes all the sense in the world for those two guys.
Right. So if you look at it, Usman is going to be fighting Burns, who's number 2. Edwards, number 3, is going to be fighting Khamzat Chimaev. Masvidal, number 4, is going to be fighting number 1, Colby Covington. You have Thompson sitting at 5. Tyron Woodley's out of the picture at 7. 6. Damian Maia at 7. Michael Chiesa, it looks like he's going to be fighting Neil Magny. They're 8 and 9. And then 10 and 11, he's already beat Vicente Luque, Geoff Neal. He's already faced Anthony Pettis. I mean, I just don't really know where he goes from here.
Yeah, he's got to fight. I mean, I think Covington is theoretically on the table, but that fight, I feel like just like we're talking about, Covington Masvidal is the way to go. And Covington against Stephen Thompson is just such an odd pairing, and it doesn't do anything for me that I think that's out of the question. So I think one option is the loser of Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns. I think that would be a fresh matchup, or I know it would be a fresh matchup rather. Also, what about, I think one that I like a little bit more, this is going to be really mean to Leon Edwards, but the winner of Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev. Well, actually, let's say this. I like for Stephen Thompson, either the loser of Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, or if Khamzat Chimaev beats Leon Edwards, then Khamzat Chimaev. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
because if Leon Edwards beats Chimaev, I hope he gets a title shot.
He has to get a title shot.
But and then I guess that's still clogging up the very top of the division, but that's just kind of the way it is. I mean, you went down all the way to 13 to find a matchup that makes sense for Stephen Thompson. So it's got to be, I think, the loser of Usman Burns makes a ton of sense.
And how about this for a name? And I don't know if he's that willing to go back down, but Kevin Holland. He's been kind of a tweener, jumping around at 170, 185. Kevin Holland is on fire going into 2020.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he wouldn't turn it down for sure. And I do get the sense Stephen Thompson is not a guy who's like playing it really safe with his career at this point, because he just fought two guys that were way below him in rankings that were like savages. So I think if they offer Wonder Boy Kevin Holland, he's going to take it for sure. That seems to be his MO at this point.
It would have almost made more sense if they went with that call out and done Kevin Holland versus Khamzat Chimaev, and then maybe Edwards versus Wonder Boy. But I mean, Edwards kind of lost his chance at Wonder Boy, right? They offered it and he said no. I don't know. It kind of puts Wonder Boy in a bit of a bind, but something's going to pop up for him. Maybe he jumps in and fights, a fight that falls out, or maybe he does get, a Jorge Masvidal or Colby Covington fight. But I think he's honestly one good win away from challenging for the title, whether it be Kamaru Usman or Gilbert Burns. And I actually kind of like his chances against either of those guys, right? He's tough to take down. His striking is excellent. His cardio is excellent. His chin is great. Man.
I mean, yeah, we just saw him move like that, run, like not get pared down for 25 full minutes. And I know Usman is like one of the best in the world at trapping guys, but man, yeah, there's no reason to believe he couldn't do that, against another elite opponent.
Yeah. We shall see, man. Moving down to the co-main event, Jose Aldo beating a very game Marlon Vera. Jose Aldo, man, just he's still trucking along. And honestly, like, I really like him at bantamweight. He has the one loss to Marlon Moraes, who, that fight was razor thin. It could have went either way. He gave Peter Yan all he can handle in that fight. Man, you want to talk about fights of the year? It's probably not the fight of the year, but I think that's one of the best fights of this year, right? His fight with Peter Yan was awesome. He gave Yan all he could handle for the whole fight. And, now he comes back and he beats another rising contender. Chito Vera was super, red hot off the Sean O'Malley win. And he showed some new wrinkles to his game, right? The leg kicks were back, which I love to see. His grappling looked great. And I think it sets him up for a big, big fight. And he's I don't want to see he's at gatekeeper status, right? But he's like that guy where he's going to be tough as hell to beat. He might not win a title at bantamweight, but man, Jose Aldo is still a player in this division.
Yeah, so I think Aldo is a really good litmus test for the elite of 135. Like if you can get past Aldo, you are almost certainly top 5 at this point. And if you can't, what we saw with Chito Vera here is probably not. Like he's a 5 to 10 to 15 top bantamweight in the world. But yeah, I think Aldo is still legit. I think he's still kind of a threat, to be honest. I think maybe mentally most of us have written him off as challenging for a title again, with those 2 losses that you mentioned. But like really, if you look at his record and who he's losing to and who he's beating now and who he's in close fights with, there's no reason to believe, a year from now we can't be talking about him fighting for the bantamweight title again.
Yeah. And I honestly loved his call out, man. He called out TJ Dillashaw, and I think that's one of the under the radar things going into 2021, right? It's been 2 years since TJ Dillashaw has been in the division, former champ, but we know his his issues with taking the old EPO. But man, you want to get TJ Dillashaw back in that division and find out where he's at. You put him in there with Jose Aldo. I love that call out. I think it's a great fight to make. I've always kind of wanted to see Jose Aldo fight Dominic Cruz, but for some reason they booked Dominic Cruz up with Casey Kenny, which was kind of a weird booking. Mm-hmm. But dude, TJ Dillashaw, sign me the fuck up. I think that's a fight to make 100%.
100% agreed. And like I know Dillashaw's not with Alpha Male anymore, but in my head I still associate him with Alpha Male, and like Aldo versus Alpha Male, right, is like kind of a classic, I don't want to say rivalry because Aldo freaking routed Uriah Faber and Chad Mendez, but there's a little bit of that going on with Dillashaw. But yeah, I love it. That's 2 like former champions. They could easily put that on a fight night card as a main event or a co-main event on a big pay-per-view, and I'd be all the way hyped for it.
Yeah, man, I love the call out. Great use of that time. And yeah, dude, if you want to see where TJ Dillashaw is at, because he's got so many questions coming into 2021. Is he going to be the same guy? 2 years off. Jose Aldo's the dude. Both, big-ish names. Yeah, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, like the important names in the division. Like the 2, I mean, we love 135, obviously, but those are being the last 2 champions. Like those are important names. Not that Aldo was a 135 champion, but those are important names in the division that have, I think, some amount of recognition that's worthwhile.
If we look at the other big bantamweight fight on this card, dude, Rob Font's, man. Rob Font.
What a wild fight.
What a wild fight and what a win. He knocks out Marlon Moraes in the first round. And I don't know if it's Marlon kind of, falling off a bit, coupled with Rob Font on the rise, or it's just Rob Font being that goddamn good. But Rob Font, man, gets the biggest win of his career. Man, he's emotional afterwards, rightfully so. Rob Font's such a nice guy. He's a great fighter. I was so happy to see it, even though he did my boy Marlon Moraes dirty. But, man, I love to see it from Rob Font. And, again, that puts him – that's another name. Like, because Rob was kind of hanging out between, 10, 15, and now he's jumped all the way up to number 5, and that sets him up with also a big fight, too. He called out TJ Dillashaw as well. I kind of like the Dillashaw-Aldo fight a little bit better, but – he's not short of options. Any ideas for Rob Font, who he should fight next?
I mean, I think there's options. I will say real quick, I think who really did Marlon Moraes dirty in this fight was Mark Goddard, because that stoppage was insanely late, one of the worst I've seen this year. And he was right there. Moraes was, and I think Goddard should have known this too. Moraes just 8 weeks ago, or maybe 9 weeks ago, got knocked out by Corey Sandhagen. You got to have that guy on a short leash. But I don't want to take anything away from Rob Font's performance here, which was pretty fucking incredible. To answer your question, looking at the rankings, I don't think going down makes a ton of sense, especially because Dominic Cruz, like you said, is already booked. That might have been a fun fight for him to chase. But looking up the rankings, I mean, kind of similar to what we were talking about with 170, I wouldn't mind seeing Rob Font against the loser of Jan and Sterling, which is a fight that I think is still not booked officially somehow. Because I think he is one fight away. But you also have Sandhagen and Frankie Edgar fighting. So either one of those guys, probably the winner is who he'd want. But, either one of those guys I think would be worthwhile for him as well.
I think the only name looking at it that I would be interested in going down, like you said, Dominic Cruz already booked up, is Merab Dvalishvili. I think Merab is very much on the rise. He's ranked at number 12 right now, but I think that ranking is going to shoot up very, very soon. But yeah, I like either of those, the loser of Jan Sterling or the winner of Sandhagen or Frankie Edgar, maybe even Cody Garbrandt. I don't know if Cody's still trying to go down to 125, and, I know his health has been a little bit, wonky. I know he got COVID. I hope he's doing okay, but dude, I'd rather see Cody at 135. I mean, it was kind of cool when they first announced him versus Davison, but dude, we just saw Davison and Brandon Moreno put on an absolute war. You have other guys at 125. Dude, don't kill yourself, man.
I mean,
stay at 135.
Yeah. Font versus Garbrandt is, of all the fights I just listed, the highest banger potential, I feel like.
Yeah.
And all those other fights are bangers. Font, Sandhagen, would absolutely love it. Even Merab with his wrestling attack, I would love to see how Rob Font deals with that. Tons of options, but yeah, I mean, Garbrandt, I would love, but we just don't know where he's at.
Yeah, no idea where he's at, but huge win for Rob Font. Closing out the main card, 2 more fights. Michel Pereira defeats Chaos Williams in a tactical chess battle, right? Who the hell would have predicted that? But I mean, if you look at it like this, right? It wasn't the absolute war that we expected with spin kicks and flips and someone getting absolutely destroyed. But Michel Pereira, with all the crazy athleticism and everything, he kind of showed that he might have a fight brain in there. And I guess that was kind of impressive because he looked good for what the fight was. I think we're all a little bit disappointed, but man, the guy's got to win. The guy's got to feed his family, and he made a call out too. He called out Anthony Pettis after this fight. I don't think he gets it, and we're going to talk about Pettis in a second. But yeah, big win for Pereira.
Yeah, I'd like to see more flips. Yeah, he is not bad. Obviously, he throws a pretty strike, and he's super fucking bodied up. He's huge, but he was in this spot because he does wild shit. So it was kind of a letdown. when he didn't do like super, super wild shit. But he's still a fun fighter. Like I'm not saying I was bored or anything.
What about Michelle Pereira versus Mike Perry?
All
Yeah.
those like any sort of character like that,
Yeah,
right? We've
that's
already
the fight.
done Diego Sanchez, do the other fucking weird guy at 170.
I know. Um, Last one on the main card. Let's talk about the loser first. But Greg Hardy loses to Marcin Tybura. And my takeaways from this was Greg Hardy's striking looks absolutely phenomenal. He looks so good on the feet. But in this fight, he showed that his gas tank is not there, and his ground game is extremely rudimentary from the bottom. Like, not even rudimentary, like non-existent. I mean, once he got put on his back, the fight was basically over from there. My question is, has the Greg Hardy experiment run its course, or do you think there's still growth and room for him in the UFC?
I definitely think there's still growth. I mean, I think he is improving a ton with each fight. And watching this fight, the first round, I was like, oh wow, his striking looks a lot better. He's still not like, he's not Israel Adesanya out there. Like he's still improving to be sure. But I think for me, the biggest not only was his ground game poor, but I think really the underlying issue was fatigue. And like I said it, like I was super impressed with the first 5 minutes, and then when the second round started, I said to the person I was watching it with, like, this is going to answer a lot of questions. We're going to find out if he's like kind of a front runner or not, because I know Tybura with fucking 25 pro fights is not going to go away at all. And then that did answer the question, like, is Greg Hardy a bit of a front runner? Is he a bully? And I think, yeah, and that's not to say he can't fix it, but um, that's something he's really going to have to deal with when he gets in there against veteran heavyweights. I still think there's room for growth. It's just weird the way they're matchmaking him against like low tier heavyweight. I guess Maurice Green was okay. But it's generally like low tier, and then they jump into these like crazy vets like Volkov and Tybura. So I would hope there's a middle ground. But I don't think the experiment has run its course, but it's definitely like I don't think either of us think he's going to be a top 5 heavyweight, right?
No, and I say run its course because I think when the UFC brought him in, I think they were expecting more eyes on him,
Yeah.
and I just don't think it's panned out, right? And I think they pay him a pretty penny, and fans just aren't drawn to him like I think the UFC thought they were. So I'm wondering if that's what I mean by kind of ran its course. But I agree with you. I think there's still potential there. Yeah, I don't foresee a heavyweight title in his future. I don't foresee him knocking out Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder and whoever the hell else he called out. But I don't know, man. In his two big step ups, he's kind of faltered more so in this fight. But hey, let's put some damn respect on Marcin Tybura's name. How about Marcin Tybura, 4-0 in 2020? He's probably not going to win Fighter of the Year with the Kevin Hollands and Deiveson Figueiredos of the world, but he put together a damn nice 2020 and caps off with a big TKO here on the main card.
Yeah, good. I like chubby Polish guys doing well, so I'm all about it.
So let's talk about Anthony Pettis. Pettis, I think, finally takes a step back in competition, right? And if you look at you want to talk resumes, dude. Anthony Pettis' resume is insane. The amount of killers he's fought. He beats Alex Morono here. He's now on a 2-fight win streak. And that was actually the last fight of his contract. Now, I'm wondering, do we see Anthony Pettis re-signed, or do you think he's already said he's going to test the waters of free agency? Do you foresee him re-signing, or do you think he's going to move elsewhere?
I get the sense he's going to move elsewhere, man. Where there was all this talk, and that he was asked about it in the post-fight interview. He said, I'm just going to like enjoy. I do think he was being genuine when he said, I'm just going to kind of enjoy the holidays. I'm not making any decisions yet. But he did use the phrase, I want to see what my worth really is, which makes me think somebody's been in his ear telling him, hey, you're probably not earning that much as you are worth. And I kind of think that guy might be his little brother who recently signed with Bellator.
Yeah.
We are seeing all this talk about Anthony Pettis 2.0. He sounds like he got a therapist and like changed his mindset. He's not smoking weed. He's not drinking anymore. He looked really fit at 170.
He
like he had a 6-pack, and in the past he just looked like a bloated lightweight. I get the sense all these things make me think Anthony Pettis is kind of looking for a rebirth a bit, something new. And I think Bellator can probably pay him a little bit more, even though he is like a bit of a golden boy for the UFC on the freaking Wheaties box and everything. But he seems like he's pretty set on figuring out what his worth is. And when most guys do that, they go elsewhere because the UFC doesn't always pay them what they're worth.
Yeah, I think this is probably the time where him and the UFC cut ties. He's been there a long time. You know, they've kind of, I think, drawn the line in the sand with some of these older vets. They're not afraid to get rid of them. And yeah, I think Bellator would be a great landing spot for him. That 170-pound division is super stacked. Dude, a Douglas Lima Anthony Pettis fight at this point would be great. You know, I think Lima's I think Lima's a little bit better than Anthony Pettis at this point. Anthony Pettis has a lot of miles on his on the treads, but that's a big fight for Douglas Lima and a big fight he deserves. You know, his brother's already there. Yeah, I think he's going to go to Bellator.
Yeah, I totally would support that. And he's also talking about going back to 155. He was talking about this fight like it was just kind of a one-off, but he looked way bigger than he has in the past at 170, like muscle-wise. So maybe 170 is where he's going to stay.
I mean, dude, Pitbull versus Anthony Pettis, awesome too.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Who else on the undercard you want to give a shout out to? There were some good ones.
Let me see. Talia Santos against Jillian Robertson.
Yeah, big win.
Especially because she beat her on the mat. Where, I mean, I love Jillian Robertson's fights because she's like just crazy aggressive on the ground, and that's all she really wants to do is submit you from on the mat. And Santos went like right into it, and I think that's
dominated.
Yeah, totally dominated, and I did not expect that. So I think that was a big takeaway for me. I think that's a player at 125. Eventually, women's 125 is going to fill out, and we're actually going to have some real contenders that can challenge Shevchenko, and Santos feels like one that in a couple years could be there.
Jimmy Flick getting a flying triangle off of a caught kick. That was pretty stuff.
Fucking beautiful. That's, I mean, late entry for submission of the year contender for sure.
Yeah, really good card overall, man.
Yeah, I was impressed. And what was it, 12 fights? I think they started with like 16 or something. So yeah,
COVID bug got him. All right, let's talk a couple of fights that were announced. I think the biggest one right now is it looks like we're finally going to get the debut of Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler is being linked to Dan Hooker for UFC 257. I really like that matchup. I think, Dan Hooker is a tough out for anybody. The guy's a dog, and that's the kind of fight that I think Michael Chandler thrives in, man. Really, really good matchmaking there.
Yeah, I used the phrase for Aldo earlier as a litmus test of the elite. I think that's what Dan Hooker is too. If you can beat Dan Hooker, you're very legit at lightweight. So I love it. It gets me excited because now I'm thinking what's next for Charles Oliveira, because that kind of eliminates a couple of options for him. But Hooker Chandler feels like guaranteed violence.
Mackenzie Dern taking on Nina Ansaroff. This one's a bit later, April 10th, but that's a good one. We'll see how Nina Ansaroff comes back after having her first child. Megan Anderson, Amanda Nunes rebooked for UFC 259. Tenshin Nasukawa, Takanori Gomi.
I don't know how I feel about that one.
Man.
I just don't. I wish Gomi was 2020 retired.
Gomi. No.
Yeah, that's it. But Nasukawa, sure.
He was gonna be juiced up. I don't know. This one gets my blood going because I feel like I've been beating this guy's drum forever, and I hope we finally see him back. But Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Li Jingliang, the Leech. Li Jingliang is all action all the time. Dude, I hope Ponzinibbio comes back, man.
I hope so too. But that is, as you just described, the Leech, all action all the time. That is if you got any sense of ring rust, that's a tough fight to come back to because Jingliang is going to be cracking your fucking face from the jump.
Here's another one too that nothing is written in stone about this one yet, but there were some rumors the other day that they are going to do Zhang Weili versus Carla Esparza. And the reasoning is that Rose Namajunas is saying she's not wanting a title shot at this point. Pat Barry came out and said, that is not the case. If they have any questions about it, talk to us. If it's not going to be Rose, dude, how do you not do Yan Xiaonan versus Zhang Weili? I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me. Two Chinese fighters. Xiaonan's on a big win streak. Zhang Weili's on a huge win streak. The Carlos Esparza one seems kind of weird. Maybe it would be like a soft re-entry for Zhang Weili, but I don't know. I don't know what's up with Rose. I don't know what's up with that matchmaking, but that one was a little weird to me.
That just feels like the UFC publicly negotiating, like using public pressure to try to negotiate prices. Essentially, like they probably want
That's
Rose
true.
to take that fight, and they're saying, and maybe Rose pushed back, or she says, not this date, I want this date. And they say, fine, we're going to give it to Carla Esparza, which doesn't make any sense, as you just brought up. Even a rematch with Joanna makes more sense to me. Like,
Yeah, that is true.
but who knows? If they give Carla the title shot, I would be pretty shocked. But also, I mean, that just feels like a negotiation tactic on the part of the UFC.
Yeah, I think you're right about that one. Esparza sits at number 4, but I mean, Yan Xiaonan's sitting at number 3.
1 through 3 all make more sense than Carla Esparza.
I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
We shall see, though. All right, we got to talk about this one before we get into our little segment today. It's looking like possibly on March 28th, the greatest welterweight in the world possibly might be coming back. And no, he's not coming back to the UFC. It looks like he might be coming back to fight Jake Paul. That is Ben Askren. I work overnights, right? So I kind of woke up today to the news of this, and Ben Askren kind of put out a video saying I accept. I don't know, man. It's kind of, I mean, here's the thing for Ben Askren. Ben Askren is a world class athlete. Say what you want about him. He's an Olympian. He's held multiple belts in MMA organizations, right? This is a weird one for him to come back to, but I don't know. It's going to make him a boatload of money, right? It's going to make him a lot more money than sitting at his house doing all these podcasts he does.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, dude. Ben Askren, above all else, is a wrestler. And I think we saw that in his MMA run, that above all else, he's a wrestler. But I think secondly, Ben Askren is an entrepreneur. And he sees an opportunity here to make, like you said, a boatload of money. And I think he wouldn't take it unless he thinks he can win.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it. Like, I'm sure at some point we'll talk about the actual fight itself when it gets closer. But for right now, I mean, yeah, I think this is like par for the course for Ben Askren. He's a guy that if he sees an opportunity, he's going to take it. And he's somebody who can like do these carnival style fights with like a sense of like dignity, if that makes any sense. He's kind of a guy who like makes it fun in a way where we would be maybe making fun of. He's not going to be like Nate Robinson, for example.
No,
right?
No.
He's a guy who understands what he's doing in that moment, in that space, and can pull it off. So, I mean, I love this kind of shit in combat sports. So I'm honestly kind of excited for it.
He's a great, foil for Jake Paul, right? Because he talks. He's got a great game on the mic.
It's gonna be like dad versus bad kid in high school. It's like like the clash there is perfect, and I think he'll mesh really well. I guess I don't really know much about Jake Paul, but from what I do, I think, like you said, he'll be a perfect foil for him.
He should be fighting Dylan Dennis. They're both fucking idiots, like both dorks. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that they're gonna go to that fight eventually, right? Because who knows what the hell Dylan Dennis is doing? He's got no fights lined up. I know he is coming off a knee injury, but I mean that fight seems inevitable, right? But I mean, Funky Ben, one of the best fighters ever, is gonna jump in there. We saw some of his striking on display against Damian Maia. I can only imagine it's gotten better since then. So we shall see.
I hope he takes it kind of seriously because Logan Paul kind of knows how to, or Jake Paul knows how to box.
He has to take it seriously because if you're coming back and you get knocked out by Jake Paul, it is not good. It is not good for especially Ben, who likes to mix it up. Still being retired, he likes to mix it up with all these guys and talk shit. If you get knocked out by Jake Paul, there's no more shit talking. You're done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he could just ride off into the internet sunset, never to be heard from again.
I mean, he might have to. All right, let's end the show with this. You were the brains behind this, and I love it. We're gonna do 5, I guess, 2021 dream fights. Or not even dream fights, but for me, the way I did this was 5 realistic fights that I really want to see in 2021.
Yeah, that's how I did it too. I got some backups here that are a little bit further in left field, but yeah, I did fights that realistically could happen. We're not talking like fucking John Jones against Ryan Bader or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. All right, you go first.
All right, we'll go. My first one, and I'm almost positive you have this on your list, so I'm going to take it from you. This is a fight with, I think that has been building for like a year and a half now, with maybe the best prospect right now, if you could even call him that, still in MMA. I want to see AJ McKee against Patricio Pitbull, and I know Pitbull has to get through Manny Sanchez, and that is not a gimme fight at all for him, like not even fucking close. But if they can get there in the finals of the Bellator, like the drama of that fight, the finals, the fact that we got McKee undefeated, who has just looked incredible, and he's been jawing at Pitbull for the better part of a year now. Sign me up. That might be my most anticipated fight if Pitbull can proceed to the finals of the tournament.
I do have that on my list, of course, and yeah, dude, I'm with you. I think. I mean, AJ McKee is what 16, 17 and 0 right now. Pitbull's one of the very best in the world. They're going to be jawing at each other, and man, that is top level MMA at its finest, man.
And how often can we say one of our most anticipated fights of the year is happening outside of the UFC?
Absolutely.
In all of the sports. So I think that says something for Bellator, for the tournament that they put together, and for AJ McKee, obviously. Like he's the backbones behind why I want to see that fight.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go with this one, but my number one is John Jones against Stipe Miocic. I love my guy Francis Ngannou. And I guess I should say John Jones against either one of them, whoever wins that fight in March. But I would not be upset whatsoever, sorry, Francis, if they went John Jones versus Francis in March. I mean, John Jones versus Stipe in March. But yeah, either one of those guys, Jones versus Stipe. I think I'd rather see the Stipe fight a little bit more just because legacy-wise, I think Stipe is a little bit further. He is a little bit further along than Francis Ngannou. But yeah, John Jones versus Stipe, number one for me.
So that's interesting. I'm going to change. I did have a John Jones fight on here, but I think I'd rather see Jones versus Ngannou just because of the optics of it. But I think both of us, right, we want to see John Jones at heavyweight, right? That's the biggest takeaway for me, at least.
Yeah.
So I did have Jones and Ngannou. I'm going to take that one out. I'm going to slot in a different one. One fight that is a little bit further in left field, but I think realistically could happen. Davison Figueiredo against Brandon Royval.
Okay.
5 rounds for the flyweight title. Because Brandon Royval just was in a fun 1-round fight with Brandon Moreno, who just took Figueiredo the freaking distance. I think we both agree that Brandon Royval is all entertainment all the time. So theoretically, if Royval can put together a couple wins, put him in there against Figueiredo. I would love to see it.
Yeah, I love it. I love Brandon Royval's style. I think he's still a very serious player in the division, and it's not going to take much to get title shots at 125, right? Yeah, I think Brandon Royval is 1 or 2 wins away from getting in there, and I think that fight would be absolute madness.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
My number 2, Gary Tonin versus Tan Lee. Dude, I wrote an article a couple years ago. I believe it was going into 2019 or I want to say it was going into 2019. And one of my big headers was be on the lookout for Gary Tonin. And I think he's been a little bit frustrated with the amount of matchmaking or fights he's been getting. But I mean, he's what, 5-6-0 right now. His striking is looking good. All signs are pointing to him fighting Tan Lee for the title. And I want to see it, man. Gary Tonin is one of the best prospects in MMA. Tan Lee is a stud. Dude, that is way up there for me.
Yeah, and I feel like this 2021 is the year Gary Tonin is no longer a prospect. And I think we've seen that, honestly, from the jump. Like, even his very early fights, right? Maybe he looked a little raw, but he has never looked out of sorts in an MMA fight. So I'm excited. I would love that fight. And honestly, I hope he fights like 3 or 4 times next year.
I
And he
do
seems
too.
like he wants to. All right, for my third, this fight I just looked up is still not officially booked. I've been talking about this fight for like 8, 9 months, and I think it's one of the best fights, if not the best, like technical matchup in all of MMA to be made right now, and it should happen soon in the first half of 2021. Peter Yan against Aljamain Sterling for the UFC bantamweight title. We've talked about bantamweight a lot on this episode, but I want that fight so bad. Both guys are just freaking incredible. Sterling's grappling against Jan's boxing, and they both have all around skills at 135. I think it'd be super fun, super high pace, and I've been waiting for it forever. So,
Yeah, I think that one's a no-brainer, right? I don't have much to add to that because it's just, dude, that is the fight to make. It hasn't been officially rescheduled yet, but I'd imagine it's going to be within the first 3 months of 2021. I mean, Peter Yan had to pull out for some personal reasons. I don't know if he's injured or what, but yeah, book that fight. That is one of the best fights that can be made right now in MMA.
absolutely.
My third one is another no-brainer. We kind of talked about it before, but I hope they don't screw this one up. Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal. That's the fight to make. There's beef there. There's genuine dislike. Former friends, former roommates. Dude, sign me up, man. I want to see it. It needs to be a main event, a 5-rounder. I don't care if you got to put the BMF title on the line or what. That needs to be 5 rounds. I need to see it.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of options for Covington that he like matches really well with.
It's the only option.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's one that we've been thinking about for a while now and should come to fruition in 2021. Or I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. What are we at? 4. So for my next one, I'm gonna go Bellator again. Recent signee, I want Anthony Rumble Johnson against another recent Bellator signee in Yoel Romero because it's just full testosterone, full explosion, full power all the time. Yeah, that's there's what can't get better MMA than that, basically.
Yeah, no, and that would be a huge fight for Bellator. I mean, those two dudes are chiseled like fucking Greek gods. And, I can only imagine what's going to be flowing through Yoel's veins up there at 205 in Bellator. Yeah, sign me the fuck up for that one, too. Love
For
it.
sure. Yeah.
This one, I guess, I mean, we could still get it in 2021, right? Depending how things shake out. But it was a couple of names I was throwing around, but this one just feels right to me, man. Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. I mean, if you want to talk about blood and guts fight, dude, I don't know if there's a better fight than this one. I mean, these guys, Justin Gaethje is the human highlight, and Michael Chandler, man, is not that far off. He's linked to Dan Hooker, which is going to be a great fight. We saw what Poirier and Hooker did to each other, but for me, I want to get that Michael Chandler Justin Gaethje fight eventually.
Yeah. That feels like the ultimate dogfight to be made in that division.
Absolutely.
And I mean, like Hooker Chandler is pretty close to it already, but yeah, that's blood and guts, like rock'em sock'em. Even if Chandler is able to take Gaethje down a bunch, I think Gaethje probably scrambles back to his feet, and it's just a bloodbath.
What did Mike Perry say that one time? Somebody might die.
Yeah,
Somebody might die in that fight.
Yeah, legit. I would love that fight. And if he gets past Hooker, I mean, why not? Or
Yeah, why not?
even if he loses to Hooker, Gaethje's coming off a loss too. So that fight's definitely doable. One more for me. So I'm going to go a little bit further in left field, but theoretically could happen. And I want this fight to happen because if it does, it means Kevin Holland had an incredible 2021. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland against Israel Adesanya, just because it means Kevin Holland would have fought his way to a title shot and would have proven himself to get to that point. I love this kid. I love his attitude. I love the way he fights. His striking is good. He's a BJJ black belt. And if that fight happens in 2021, it means he did some awesome shit in between because he is currently ranked 10th in the division. But those two would jaw at each other for days. I love it.
Yeah.
A little bit in the left field, but come on. I would love that fight.
Well, my last one is a little bit in left field too, and I do love that as well. And they had that little bit of beef. Kevin Holland's got some work to do, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. The Kevin Holland's on fire right now, man. And if you look at the top of that division, outside of Robert Whittaker rematch, there's not a lot going on for Israel Adesanya. I think Kevin Holland, with another win or two, is going to be right there. So it might not be as far in left field as you think. My fifth one, and again, this is assuming all goes well and they can make it happen, but Kayla Harrison versus Chris Cyborg. And again, it's take your pick, right? Do I want to see her fight Cyborg? Do I want to see her fight Amanda Nunes? I love Amanda Nunes, but Cyborg is one of my favorite fighters, and man, it seems inevitable that she's not going to be hanging in the PFL for too long. You got two of the best women ever in either one of those divisions, and I think that she knows that, and I think she's going to be looking to get in the octagon with one of them, and I'm hoping it's Cyborg. I think late 2021, we're going to see Kayla Harrison versus Chris Cyborg for the 145-pound title.
I'm glad you brought it up because she is like the Kayla Harrison story, if you will, in MMA is like falling a little bit under the radar. But I think 2021, if there was a year where she's going to become the story in MMA, not just women's MMA, I think that this will be her year coming up.
Yeah. Was that all five?
I got my five.
I got a couple other fun ones if you want to hear them.
Some honorable mentions. Yeah, hit them with me. Hit me with them.
I'll give you. I have three that probably are not going to happen, but I would love to see. Actually, the first one might happen. Give me Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson at 170.
Yep. Perfect. We talked about that, right?
We did.
Yeah.
And at 170, let Tony go up to 170. Don't kill yourself. That's a fun fight. I think Tony's the kind of guy that Nate Diaz is going to get up for too. Dude, they've been rumoring him for a long time. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't even know if I want to see it, but if it does happen, this is a guy I want to see him with. Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler, number 2.
Dude, I was trying to think of a like a Legends fight like that to come up with. That's a pretty good fight. I would love it. Nick would talk and Robbie would just be quiet. And like be mean and shit.
But dude, it's when did that first fight happen?
2002 or something.
2002, like, and they're both so far in the tooth. You have no idea what Nick Diaz is like. Robbie's not been the same guy. Save him some brain damage. Put him in there with each other. The last one, I don't know where this man is, but I'm staying with the Nick Diaz army. Kron Gracie versus Ryan Hall. We were kind of talking about that. I mean, dude, just from a pure grappling prospect standpoint, man, that's one of them for me. I would love to see it.
Dude, I had a Ryan Hall fight on my honorable mentions as well. I was thinking this one is a little bit more like rankings wise makes sense. Is Ryan Hall against Korean Zombie?
Oh,
just because I think that would be super fun, and I think Zombie would take that fight. But yeah, I think of course, like both of us were trying to think of fun fights for Ryan Hall because we just want to see more of him in 2021.
What other ones you got in there?
This is along the lines of Kevin Holland against Israel Adesanya because it means if she gets to the title shot, it's because she did some stuff. But I want to say Amanda Ribas, who I think is the best like up and comer at strawweight against Zhang Weili. And again, like I said, that's partly because if Ribas is fighting for the title, it means she probably won a couple fights in between. But we saw what she did to Mackenzie Dern, who just looked really good.
Yeah.
And I think Ribas is the real deal. Also, while we're talking Zhang Weili, I would also love to see her if she can get a couple more dominant wins this year against Shevchenko. Is it in a bit of a super fight?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, man. Pretty much anything with Zhang Weili right now, I'm super intrigued by. I think she is one of the best fighters. She's all action. She's so damn good. Great technique. Yeah, sign me up, man.
I mean, like if she like sparks Rose or something, I mean, who's to say she couldn't give Shevchenko a tough fight?
I mean, Valentina's who's she fighting next? You know what I'm saying? There's not much. I think for Valentina, it's got to be a super fight. Either rematching Nunes at 135, or like you said, if Zhang keeps winning, I think that's definitely in play for 2021.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of fun fights. Like what is the best fight Shevchenko can be in right now? It's like impossible to come up with good ones, at least in her division right now. That really get me going.
The one for me that I was always like on board with was Ilima-Lei Macfarlane, but she got beat in her last fight. She didn't look particularly good, and I think that answered a lot of questions I had about her versus Valentina.
Yeah, and I don't want to go on forever about this, but I also think there's a bunch of fun fights for Douglas Lima in Bellator. Even like Even like Yaroslav Amosov, like just a straight up contender. Like
that was on my list as well.
Yeah.
That was on my list.
I'm
And I
glad.
think that's got to be next for him.
Yeah.
I mean, Amosov is what 25-0 now. He's beaten Ed Ruth. He's beaten Logan Storley. I feel like that's got to be next. Unless they do sign Anthony Pettis and go right for Douglas Lima, Anthony Pettis. I think Amosov has to be next.
Yeah. I mean, even Anthony Pettis against Amosov. I'm excited about Amosov is essentially the biggest takeaway, and I think should be fighting for a title in 2021. And if he's not, I don't know what the hell Bellator is doing.
I don't know what the hell they're doing. Yeah, that's it for me, man. I think all of those fights, we went a little bit over 10, but that's the beauty of MMA, right? There's so much good shit going on, and we got a lot to look forward to in 2021. There's a lot of rising stars, a lot of contenders, great champions, great organizations, and looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Next week, we are going to be doing, I believe next week, right? We're going to be doing our year-end awards, so be on the lookout for that. Still pumping out the technique on YouTube, so please hit us with that subscription on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes. We're all over the place. We hope you all have a happy holiday. Enjoy Christmas, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape, can you step to this? Face the pain.